Very good morning and welcome to Breakfast News. In the next 1 hour, we'll get you all the latest news and updates. President, Vice President and other ministers, including Prime Minister Narendra Modi, paid tributes and respects to former PM Atal Bihari Vajpayee on his death anniversary. Health Minister to visit Mansukh Mandviya to visit Kerala today, and we'll talk about that. And in international news also, situation is getting worse in Afghanistan. All of that and much more. My name is Abhishek and with me is my colleague Preeti. Good morning, Preeti.
Good morning, Abhishek, and a warm good morning to all of you. You're watching Breakfast News on DD India, and in the next 1 hour, we'll get to everything that's making it to the headlines to make sure that your tea or coffee right in the morning tastes even better. We begin with the headlines first.
Taliban returns to power in Afghanistan, seizes the presidential palace. President Ashraf Ghani and diplomats flee Kabul. Chaos at the Kabul airport as thousands of people try to fly out of the country. UN Security Council to hold emergency meeting on Afghan situation today.
Nation remembers former Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee on his third death anniversary. President, Vice President and Prime Minister paid their tributes at Sadaiv Atal Memorial in the national capital this morning.
Union Health Minister Mansukh Mandviya will meet Kerala Chief Minister and Health Minister today to review the state's COVID situation. Kerala continues to see over 18,000 new positive cases daily.
Fierce contest between England and India to continue at Lord's as India take on England today on day 5 of the second test match. India currently lead by 154 runs.
At Youth World Archery Championship in Poland, India finishes its campaign with 8 golds, 2 silvers and 5 bronze medals.
Alright, those are the top stories. Let's get to the news in detail. We begin with the current situation in Afghanistan. Updates on that first.
The Taliban took over capital Kabul on Sunday, completing their takeover of the country in a lightning offensive that saw provinces and warlords give up without a fight. Kabul was the last big city under government control after the fall of Mazar-e-Sharif on Saturday evening. This is the first time since their ouster 20 years ago in the wake of the 9/11 strikes that Taliban fighters have entered the city. Taliban's first seized the capital Kabul in 1996.
Afghanistan President Ashraf Ghani, meanwhile, left the country on Sunday as Taliban enter Kabul, saying he wanted to avoid bloodshed. In a post on his Facebook page, Ghani said that he had faced a difficult decision with the fate of millions of Kabul residents and the security of the city at stake after 20 years of war in which countless numbers had already been killed. Earlier, the Afghan president held a call with national security forces on Sunday and instructed security officials to maintain safety and establish direct phone lines with the communities.
And amidst the development, chaotic scenes are being witnessed at Hamid Karzai International Airport in Kabul as thousands of people are trying to flee the Afghan capital. As the US deployed helicopters to evacuate diplomats and staff from its embassy in Kabul, thousands of civilians descended on the airport in attempts to leave the country. Many civilians had already fled to the capital from other cities and towns in order to escape the Taliban's brutal military push through the country over the past week.
The United Nations Security Council has called an emergency meeting today amidst the deteriorating situation in Afghanistan. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, who had repeatedly condemned the attacks on Afghan civilians and implored the Taliban and the government representatives to negotiate a peaceful settlement, will address the emergency meeting of the Security Council. Now, this will be the second meeting on Afghanistan under India's presidency at the Council. Estonia and Norway have requested this urgent session.
Earlier, the UN Secretary General expressed concern on the rapidly evolving situation in Afghanistan, and in a series of tweets, the UN chief called on the Taliban and all others to exercise utmost restraint to protect lives and ensure humanitarian needs can be addressed. He said the UN remains determined to contribute to a peaceful settlement and promote human rights of all Afghans. He noted that conflict is forcing hundreds of thousands to flee their homes, and there are reports of serious human rights abuses and violations in the communities most affected by the fighting. The UN chief further said all abuses must stop. International humanitarian law and human rights, especially the hard-won gains of women and girls, must be preserved.
Amidst the deteriorating situation, most of the countries are evacuating their people. The United States has announced that it will be taking over air traffic control at Kabul airport and will expand the country's security presence to nearly 6,000 troops to facilitate the safe departure of the American and allied personnel from Afghanistan via civilian and military flights. In a joint statement, the U.S. Department of State and Department of Defense said that the U.S. will be transferring thousands of American citizens as well as locally employed staff of the U.S. mission in Kabul and their families over the coming days. The statement further said that U.S. will accelerate the evacuation of thousands of Afghans eligible for U.S. special immigrant visas, nearly 2,000 of whom have already arrived in the United States over the past 2 weeks. For all categories, Afghans who have cleared security screening will continue to be transferred directly to the United States, and U.S. will find additional locations for those yet to be screened.
And as the crisis deepens in Afghanistan, an Air India flight with 129 passengers aboard has returned from Kabul to Delhi on Sunday. According to Air India officials, there is no plan yet to cancel the Delhi-Kabul-Delhi flight, and that it is scheduled to operate today as well. However, the airline is monitoring the situation closely and will take appropriate action as and when required. Currently, only Air India is operating flights between India and Afghanistan.
In Canada, Afghans who assisted Canadian government in Afghanistan arrived at Toronto airport for weeks as Taliban insurgents gained control in Afghanistan aimed U.S. troop withdrawal. The Canadian government has been evacuating Afghans who assisted their military efforts. Canada last week announced that it plans to resettle more than 20,000 vulnerable Afghans, including women leaders, human rights workers, and also reporters to protect them from Taliban reprisals.
And Turkey, meanwhile, said the Turkish embassy in the Afghan capital Kabul would continue its operations. Turkey's foreign minister told media that Turkey has taken all the necessary measures and precautions with regards to its diplomatic missions and employees in Afghanistan. He, however, said Turkey will provide every opportunity to its citizens who want to leave Afghanistan, and all the necessary preparations in this regard have been completed.
In the United States, protesters were angry at the swift Taliban advance on Kabul and accused Biden administration of betraying them. Demonstrators gathered outside White House, holding signs denouncing Taliban and warning of the threat to women who would not be living under their rule.
And Germany on Sunday shuttered its embassy in Kabul and prepared to send military transport planes to Afghanistan to evacuate as many Germans and local Afghan helpers as possible. German embassy staff have already been moved to a military part of Kabul airport. German foreign minister said the core staff will remain there in the coming days to help with further evacuations. The German military aircraft will take evacuated people to Uzbekistan's capital Tashkent. From there, the people will be taken to Germany on board civilian charter aircraft. Germany, the United States and other international partners have agreed to support each other in their evacuation efforts.
Also, British Army's 16th Air Assault Brigade landed in Kabul on Sunday as part of the Operation Pitting to support the evacuation of British nationals. The operation involved 600 members of the armed forces who have already begun to deploy. All right, to talk more about it, our correspondent Amritpal Singh is joining us. Amrit, we've shown details and updated our viewers. You spell out more as to how deep is the crisis in Afghanistan? Which way is the country heading to?
Pretty deep, which way the country is heading to, nobody knows how the cookie will crumble. The fact is, Taliban have taken control. I was just speaking to somebody, one of the Indian journalists who's stuck at the international airport, the Hamid Karzai International Airport in Kabul. They've placed tanks, they're Taliban, gun-toting Taliban moving around and firing shots in the air. They've put 6 tanks, blocked the way to the airport. People are trying to scramble inside. The airport authorities has collapsed. The Taliban don't know who to appoint in terms of allowing the flights. So it's a total chaos. The Kabul right now is in a total chaos, and not just Kabul, the whole of the country is in total chaos. So really the coming days would be very, very difficult. We know President Ghani is out of the country after he reported, it's being said that he fled the country. Abdullah has accused him of leaving the country in a lurch. He's called him the former president. Ashraf Ghani put out a statement saying he had to leave to avoid bloodshed. The Taliban are yet to appoint the transition government. So at this moment, Afghanistan is going through a total chaos, and nobody knows who's in control. But yes, there are Taliban militia all over Afghanistan, in most provincial capitals of Afghanistan, in most districts. They control about more than 3/4 of Afghanistan now. And but in terms of law and order, in terms of authority, it's still a huge vacuum which will take days to fill in. And whoever is trying to get out through whatever means, through air, through border crossings. Pakistan has closed the Chaman border crossing, which the Taliban took over day before. There's a huge humanitarian crisis blowing over there. People are crossing into Iran, especially the minorities, the Hazaras, the Tajiks, the Uzbeks. Are very worried about their safety. So it is really unfolding humanitarian, I wouldn't say crisis, it's actually a humanitarian catastrophe that's unfolding in Afghanistan at the moment.
Right, Amritpal, complete transformation of power you're saying, and evacuations of diplomat missions have already started. But again, we are also hearing that emergency UNSC meeting will also be held today. Indian presidency will convene the briefing and consultations on Afghanistan?
That's right. India is being the president. Basically, the UNSC has called an emergency meeting. The UN Secretary General will be addressing this briefing, this meeting. The other members of the Security Council will be participating as to what the international community's response should be on the evolving situation. This is slated for 7:30 this evening according to Indian time, and 10 a.m. according to Eastern time or New York time. This meeting will essentially deliberate on what should be the response of the Security Council and the UN in terms of the unfolding situation in Afghanistan. International appeals have been made. The US, along with some 60 other countries, have made the appeal to allow people to get out of Afghanistan. Whoever wishes to come out of Afghanistan unharmed through air, through roads, through border crossings. We also know that the UN Secretary General had expressed deep concern yesterday and day before, saying that a negotiated political settlement needs to be sought. That's what the international community has been saying. But right now, I think more than that, what is looming large on everybody's mind is how to get a certain amount of stability. At least stopping the chaos and installing a government there. Now, what the contours of that government should be need to be discussed among regional players, among Afghans, among the world community at a large, and how, depending upon how the Taliban take it further, the world will have to think that what their response would be. Would they want to lend recognition to the only Taliban government, or would it be an interim government which would have elements of the former administration, or would be a more inclusive government which would have other minorities in the All that needs to be worked out, but I think what's facing the world at large right now is the humanitarian crisis that's unfolding in Afghanistan.
All right, Amrit, you're talking of this humanitarian crisis. After the withdrawal of the U.S. troops, was it not, did the Afghan government under President Ghani did not see it coming? Having said that, a Taliban spokesperson has also talked of how they are open to forming an open, inclusive Islamist government in Afghanistan, which will also have peaceful relations with other countries, with the international world as well. What is your reading of that?
Well, that's what the Taliban says as of now, that they would want to. I mean, it's the statements emanating out of Taliban seem to be more, amenable and more conciliatory than when Taliban took over control the last time. Now, what remains to be seen is that a tactical move or is it a long-term strategic move? But the one thing is clear, that the Taliban this time around is looking for international recognition of some sort. Unlike the last time around when they came into power, they realized they've paid the price for that. They've seen the consequences of that. They wouldn't want to go down the same path, but the core of their ideology remains what it is. So that is a cause of concern for the. Needs to be also seen is that how the other minorities of Afghanistan, the Tajiks, the Uzbeks, the Hazaras, Shias, the women, how they are integrated into the society. Does that clash with the vision that Taliban have of running a country? So all those contours will be clear in the coming days. And only then would the world know that what sort of a government they wish to install. But they are trying to strike the right chord and make the right noises. But then again, it depends. There is a huge gap between the militia on the ground who execute things, their understanding of how governance should run, and their think tanks and their top political leadership. Taliban, the militia has been essentially, they've been fighters fighting for so long, and they have absolutely no experience of governance. They do have some experience of governances and the governance in the areas that they controlled, but that ran more on the tribal models. But when it comes to having international foreign policy engagement with other countries and other international players, that is where they lack the experience. So one would have to see that how all that plays out in the coming days.
Right, next few days will be very, very important, and we'll keep giving you updates on this story. Thank you, Amritpal, for the time being. Thank you for giving us your vital inputs.
All right, today is the third death anniversary of one of the most loved Prime Ministers of the country, Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Remembered for being sworn in thrice as the country's Prime Minister, Atalji was also a poet, a rousing speaker and a visionary statesman. He took India to unprecedented heights on the world stage, making the world recognize India's might and wisdom. He gave the nation dreams and the energy to realize those dreams. Up next, take a look at the journey of this legendary leader.
तूफानों में अमर असंख्यक बलिदानों में उद्यानों में वीरानों में अपमानों में सम्मानों में उन्नत मस्तक उभरा सीना पीड़ाओं में पलना होगा कदम मिलाकर चलना.
The legendary poet-politician may no longer be with us, but his vision, words and deeds live on. Atal Bihari Vajpayee remained a leader without an enemy. Throughout his 5-decade-long political journey, he remained above all differences, dissensions and disagreements, leaving an indelible impression of unity, compassion and large-heartedness on all the lives he touched.
किंतु चीर कर धमकी छाती चमका हिंदुस्तान हमारा.
Born on 25th of December 1924 in Madhya Pradesh's Gwalior, Vajpayee was among the founding members of the Bharatiya Jan Sangh. After the passing away of Deen Dayal Upadhyay, the responsibility of leading the Jan Sangh fell on Vajpayee's shoulders. As Jan Sangh president, his political struggle took a sharper turn. His political journey also encountered the 1975 emergency, where Atalji endured incarceration along with several other leaders. The next turn came with the formation of the Janata Party government in 1977, when Vajpayee became the External Affairs Minister. He took the world stage by storm on the 4th of October 1977, when he voiced India's views, visions and aspirations in Hindi at the United Nations General Assembly. This was the first time that any Indian leader gave Hindi a preeminent space on the world stage. Opposition unity crumbled after the fall of the Janata Party government in 1979. In the face of challenging circumstances, the Jan Sangh was reconstituted, and at the 6th of April 1980 convention, the Bharatiya Janata Party was born. Vajpayee was unanimously chosen as its president. Atalji became India's Prime Minister thrice. The first time it was from 16th of May till 28th of May in 1996 for 13 days. Thereafter it was for 13 months between 1998 and 1999. And the third time he became Prime Minister in 1999 and served the country till 2004.
मैं अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी ईश्वर की शपथ लेता हूँ.
He was the first non-Congress PM to complete a 5-year term in office. His tenure is known for establishing India as a nuclear power, improving relations with Pakistan and the Kargil war victory. It's also hailed for strengthening India's infrastructural might through the Golden Quadrilateral Project and the Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana, where metalled roads reached thousands of villages for the first time ever in the country. After the Pokhran nuclear tests in May 1998, Western nations imposed sanctions against India, but under Vajpayee's leadership, the country endured all hardships, touching new heights of economic development. Atalji wasn't only a great leader, he was a poet, a journalist, and a rousing public speaker. He even edited several nationalistic publications such as Rashtradharma, Panchajanya, and Veer Arjun for several years. As a tribute to his contributions to the nation, the Narendra Modi government bestowed upon Vajpayee India's highest civilian honor, Bharat Ratna, in 2014. Bureau Report, DD India.
And President Ramnath Kovind, Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu and Prime Minister Narendra Modi today paid their tributes and respects at Sadaiv Atal Memorial in the national capital this morning. This is President Ramnath Kovind who paid tributes and respects at Sadaiv Atal Memorial in the national capital today, just a short while back. One of the most loved prime ministers of the country, he was a prominent leader of the country, and the nation can't get a leader like Atal Bihari Vajpayee, great leader, exceptional orator and a writer too. Today is former Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee's third death anniversary. So this is Prime Minister Narendra Modi paying tributes and respects to former Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee on his third death anniversary.
Union Home Minister Amit Shah, Union Defence Minister Rajnath Singh and other Bharatiya Janata Party leaders were also present at the memorial. Namita Kaul, daughter of Atal Bihari Vajpayee, with her family members also paid tribute. Also, amidst fears of a possible third wave of COVID-19 and the prevailing outbreak, Union Health Minister Mansukh Mandavia will be visiting Kerala today to review the COVID situation. During the visit, the Union Health Minister is expected to meet Chief Minister P. Vijayan and State Health Minister Veena George. Kerala is reporting more than half of the total cases in the country. The state currently has over 1.8 lakh active cases, the only one to have an active case pool of over a lakh. Now, the death count in the state ever since the pandemic began stands at 18,499. All right, joining us is Ajay Joy for more on that. Ajay, good morning. Let us know the details of the visit of Health Minister to the state, and also let us know what is the current situation in the state when we talk of COVID numbers.
Yes, Preeti. Union Health Minister will be visiting Kerala today to take a review of the situation. He will be meeting Chief Minister and Health Minister of Kerala. We are hoping that the meeting will be over by 4:30, the whole review meeting. So after that, we will be able to come up with what really transpired in the meeting. And Union Health Minister is accompanied by Dr. S.K. Singh, the leader of the central team, which visited last time and given a comprehensive report on Kerala's COVID strategy. So it is understood that the review meeting today will be on the action points that have been implemented based on the report. Basically, because Kerala health authorities will have to brief a union minister, in fact, regarding the guidelines, the new guidelines that are set in place as per the recommendations of the earlier report. And regarding the current situation, yesterday on Sunday, Kerala has recorded 18,582 fresh cases of COVID, and that is constituting more than 50% of the current cases or fresh cases reported across the country. And right now, the strategy has been shifted more to the micro containment zones, whereby not the local body, but in fact the ward in which the situation is more serious. The micro containment plan is in place right now. So focus has been shifted to the micro containment. And
right, so Health Minister Mansukh Mandavia will visit Kerala today, and more than 50% of India's cases are coming from Kerala. Thank you, Ajay, for giving us your precious time. Moving on to our next story now. State level curfew presently in force in the Goa will be extended by 8 more days. Chief Minister Pramod Sawant said that the curfew in force since May 9 will now go on till 7 a.m. of August 23rd. Earlier, the curfew was to remain in place till today.
The COVID-induced lockdown in Puducherry has been extended till 31st of August. In addition to the existing restrictions, a night curfew will be in force from 10:30 p.m. to 5 a.m. As per the government order, religious places would be open till 9 p.m. with certain restrictions. Further, essential services would be permitted, which include sale of milk and medicines. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Governor has said that the government would take a decision on reopening schools after obtaining a report from the Education Department. She added that decision would be taken after 20th of August on reopening schools.
And the schools reopened today in some parts of the country for different classes. In Uttar Pradesh, all schools for classes 9 to 12 reopened today amid COVID protocols in place. Students would be allowed to attend schools at 50% capacity as per an order by the government. School will remain open for 5 days a week. Along with this, admissions to junior high school would also begin from today. And in view of the decrease in the cases of corona in Uttarakhand, the Education Department has given permission to reopen schools in Uttarakhand. Schools for classes 6 to 8 opened from today. Schools from classes 9 to 12 have been open since the beginning of August. Also now, preparations are being made to open junior school. It is mandatory for the students coming to school to bring the consent letter of the parents along with them. In Bihar, schools resume offline classes from today for students of classes 1st to 8. For this, special guidelines have been issued for school buses and premises by Patna District Education Administration. It is mandatory for institutions to follow these guidelines for the safety of all. It is to be noted that students in the flood-affected districts will have to wait for some more time to physically attend the school. Education Minister Vijay Kumar Chaudhary, schools in flood-affected areas are not in right shape to hold the classes. In Andhra Pradesh, schools reopened too for classes 12th. Attendance has not been made mandatory yet, and online classes would continue alongside for students who do not wish to come for offline classes. Along with this, the government has decided to start the implementation of National Education Policy 2020. It has even decided to introduce 6 types of schools from pre-primary to class 12 under National Education Policy 2020.
External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar will be visiting New York during India's presidency of the United Nations Security Council and will be presiding over 2 high-level signature events on August 18 and 19. The first event on August 18 will be an open debate on protecting the protectors, technology and peacekeeping, while the second event on August 19th will be a high-level briefing on threats to international peace and security caused by terrorist acts. Both these topics are priorities for India during its UNSC innings. The aim is to improve camp security for UN peacekeepers, overall security situation and quality of situational awareness. An MOU between the Government of India and the UN in support to Partnership for Technology in Peacekeeping initiative is expected to be signed during the visit. On 19th of August, the minister would preside over a briefing session on the 6th monthly report of the UN Secretary General on the threat posed by ISIL or Daesh under the agenda item, Threats to International Peace and Security Caused by Terrorist Acts. During this visit, External Affairs Minister would also have bilateral meetings with foreign ministers of other member states on the sidelines of these high-level events.
And India's freedom struggle is one of the greatest and glorious struggles the modern world has ever witnessed. We will really bring you a glimpse of the struggle. We delve into the great ocean of India's freedom struggle and present the pearls to our viewers. Putting centuries into capsule is a Himalayan task and it can never cover everything or everybody. It will be our endeavor to cover major incidents and personalities connected with the centuries of resistance, yet it will not be the complete story but a tribute to the brave sons and daughters of the soil who gave up everything they had to realize the dream to free their motherland from the shackles of foreign rule.
As the nation got its freedom at the stroke of the midnight of 15th August 1947, every Indian woke up with immense confidence that only freedom can give. There were hopes, there were resolves, there were expectations.
In today's episode, we will give you a brief about 2 not very well-known sons of India, Moj Riba and Gothu Lachana. Moj Riba was the first to hoist the national flag in Arunachal Pradesh at Deepa village on 15th August 1947. A noble soul that he was always willing to help. This is why Moj Riba was fondly called Abhoy Neji, meaning old father of all. He was born in the year 1890 in the Daring village, now Dari, in West Siang area of the state. His cane business made him interact with a cross-section of people. This is how he heard about the freedom movement. Moj Riba and his group met several prominent leaders and they joined the movement. In recognition of his innumerable sacrifices for the country's independence, he was honored with Tamra Patra by Government of India on 15th August 1972, the 25th year of our independence.
15th August is also the birth anniversary of one of modern India's greatest philosophers, Sri Aurobindo. Aurobindo Ghosh was an active freedom fighter from 1902 to 1910. He was the first political leader to openly put forward in his newspaper Bande Mataram the idea of complete independence for the country. Sri Aurobindo and his brother Barindro led a revolutionary organization named Anushilan Samiti. The Samiti challenged British rule in India. The British also tried to falsely implicate Sri Aurobindo in Alipur conspiracy, but he was acquitted by the court. Later, he devoted the rest of his life to the development of his integral yoga, which was characterized by its holistic approach and its aim of a fulfilled and spiritually transformed life on earth. He also penned one of the longest poems in the world, Savitri, a legend and a symbol. The poem Savitri has 24,000 lines.
Also on 16th August, year 1909, was born Gothu Lachana in Srikakulam, Andhra Pradesh. He was a champion of Kisans, backward classes, weaker sections, and one of the most prominent leaders of his time. He was arrested at a very young age of 21 when he participated in the salt satyagraha at Palasa. Lachana also participated in the Quit India movement. He was conferred the title of Sardar for his fearless fight against the British Raj.
Having been inspired by Gandhi's fast unto death on the issue of untouchability, Lachana organized Harijan Seva Sangam at Barua in 1932. He started a night school in the Harijan Cheri and agitated against untouchability. He organized estate-wise Zamindari Raitu associations, no tax campaigns, fought for the abolition of Zamindari system as farmers were unable to pay the heavy land revenue that was levied upon them. In 1940, he organized All India Kisan Sabha at Palasa.
Another interesting fact about this day is that Puducherry celebrates its independence on the 16th of August. Puducherry, then Pondicherry, was a French colony and their parliament ratified the Treaty of Secession on August 16, 1962, formally merging Puducherry with the Union of India.
Mark Twain has aptly summed up India as the cradle of the human race, the birthplace of human speech, the mother of history, the grandmother of legend, and the great-grandmother of tradition. Our most valuable and most artistic materials in the history of man are treasured up in India only.
All right, after this, we present our next segment, Web News Review. And joining us today morning is Abhishek.
Over to you, Abhishek. Good morning.
Good morning, Preeti. Good morning, Abhishek. And the first news that I'm bringing to you is from the Indian Express, which, of course, globally it is the most crucial news at this hour of time. And Taliban has taken control of Kabul, and President flees. The ultimate prize in every Afghanistan war fell to Taliban on Sunday, and this is Indian Express news headline because you can see in the pictures these Taliban guerrillas or fighters, they can be seen sitting in the presidential palace, where sometimes we have seen the former president Abdul Ghani also giving speech or media releases. Next newspaper in line is The Hindu, which has made headline of Prime Minister's 15th August speech, where the Prime Minister has said that next 25 years is going to be crucial for India's development, and how these 25 years should be dealt with, and what are the steps that government should take, and the people should also contribute. These are the topics that the news has tried to discuss about. Next newspaper is the Times of India that I have brought to you, which has said that the biotech, Bharat Biotech, which is also a co-vaccine manufacturer, is working on a nasal vaccine as a booster dose. The company expects significant data on the combination in the next 2 months, which can then drive the future course of action based on regulatory approvals and policy divisions. In this hour of crisis with this corona pandemic, every innovations and discoveries are so meaningful and relevant, and with this nasal booster dose, if it comes into being, it will surely be a boost in fight against this pandemic. Hindustan Times is our next newspaper, which has been headline of Health Minister to visit Kerala today as state battle surges in COVID-19 cases. We have seen that over 50% cases in the recent weeks of the total cases in the country of COVID, Kerala has been contributing about 50% cases, and why this has been the reason, and how the government, central government, can help Kerala to deal with it and bring down the number of cases and spread awareness and all the facilities that the state may need. So the health minister will be visiting Kerala today to discuss these issues with the state government. So this is all the news that I am bringing to you right now, and back to you for more updates to Abhishek and Preeti.
All right, Abhishek, thank you for joining in with that Web News Review.
Right, let's move on to our next segment, which is Sports Track. Cricket first, India and England continue to wage a seesaw tussle at Lord's, and this one could go well either way from here. Moeen Ali spun a web around India's lower middle order as he claimed the wickets of Ajinkya Rahane and Ravindra Jadeja late in the final session to hand over the advantage to England at stumps on day 4 of the second test match. Earlier, Mark Wood dismissed Cheteshwar Pujara for 45 after both Rahane and Pujara added 100 crucial runs for the 4th wicket and steadied India following 3 early wickets. At the end of the day's play, India were placed at 181 for 6 after 82 overs with a lead by 154 runs. And today on day 5, Rishabh Pant and Ishant Sharma will play a very crucial role, especially in the first session.
On the occasion of 75th Independence Day, junior and cadet archers brought smiles on the faces of millions of people with their magnificent achievements at the concluding day of Youth World Archery Championship in Poland. Giving India's best ever performance in the Youth World Archery Championships, the junior and cadet team's campaign ended in the biggest event for youth with 15 medals, including 8 golds, 2 silvers and 5 bronze medals. The performance is being termed as one of the best, rather the best one, as they competed with more than 500 archers from the world. After targeting gold in the junior recurve in Poland, Komalika Bari became the second Indian after Deepika Kumari to win both the cadet and junior recurve women world champions title. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi has congratulated the archery team, and in a tweet he said, this is what he tweeted: Indian contingent at the World Archery Youth Championships in Rocklo has made us proud by winning 15 medals, including 8 gold medals. Congrats to our team and best wishes for their future endeavours. May this success inspire more youngsters to pursue archery and excel in it. Unquote. Alright, that's it in this edition of Breakfast News this morning. But before we go, we still tell you that the fight against the pandemic is not yet over. Keep wearing masks, wear it correctly and properly. Keep following COVID-appropriate behavior, and all those eligible, please get yourself vaccinated. Absolutely, it's very important, and follow COVID-appropriate behavior. Cases might be declining, but it's very important to stay guarded. But before we leave here are the glimpses of landmark buildings which have been illuminated in the colors of the national flag on the occasion of 75th Independence Day. Take a look. Namaskar. Bye-bye.